this family, Leah?
We have 1,000 questions.
What do you want to do when you grow up? Crush your father's soul and make him question his own identity?
Excuse us a minute.
Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair is here, and I watched it, and I want to talk about it. And if you're new here, I just want to preface this by saying usually I make these videos with my friends, but I'm the only person that watched this so far, at least, so it's just me for this one. I just really want to talk about this. I want to start this out by saying that Malcolm in the Middle, the original show, is one of my favorite sitcoms and just shows out there. It was one of those shows that I watched at the perfect age. Like, I watched it when I was fairly young, but at an age where I was sort of shaping my sense of humor and finding what things were funny to me in television and film. And Malcolm in the Middle was one of those shows that a lot of it just really hit me as funny, but in a way, you know, there's the stuff that's obviously funny, but there's also a lot of stuff in that show that a lot of people I know would probably not think it's as funny as I do, but at a young age, it just struck me as something really funny. An example of this is like Francis in military school singing Candyman.
The Candyman makes everything he bakes satisfying and delicious.
It's just so random but funny. But anyways, Malcolm in the Middle was one of those shows that has just always stuck with me. It had really cool and inventive sequences and would change the status quo a lot, mainly with Francis, but it's insane that like they had one of their central characters go from one location to another location to another location to a kind of haphazard location towards the end, I'm not gonna lie. In retrospect, it's just really interesting to me how much they tried to push this show to constantly be doing something that would make you go, whoa, they're really doing this? Like Francis going to Alaska. That's crazy. But it was just Malcolm in the Middle. That was par for the course by the time you got to that point in the show. And I could go on and on about the original, but I'm here to talk about the revival. So with me enjoying this show so much, I of course was sort of nervous for this revival when the news broke, but weirdly enough, I wasn't as nervous as a lot of people were, I'm sure, because we all know how it goes with revivals. They're really hit or miss, but most of the time, there are shows that come back and it just feels like they shouldn't have come back, or it just isn't as funny or isn't as good. But truthfully, this revival didn't need to be funny at all for me personally. All I needed to see was the cast in the same room again. That was literally all I needed from this revival. And the reason I say that is because Malcolm in the Middle was one of those shows that when it ended, it just ended. And what I mean by that is that it wasn't a show like Full House or Saved by the Bell where they had some sort of presence after the show ended. There was no moment of, oh, the cast reunited on Jimmy Fallon and did a skit where they did the Full House on Jimmy, you know, great way of explaining that. So just having the cast in the same room doing the same thing again was more than enough for me. And to just sum up my general thoughts on the revival, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, and it was just kind of what I needed it to be. I didn't need it to blow my mind. I didn't need it to be funnier than the original. Just seeing this again was more than enough for me. And I'm mentioning this because I've seen some split reactions on the revival, but after watching all 7 seasons, all 151 episodes, which I did do, I literally finished season 7 last night. By the time you get to the end of the show, it wasn't necessarily getting better. Like it kind of like stagnated for a little bit, and it was still entertaining, but it just wasn't as strong as it was before. So for that reason, I was pretty much okay with this revival. It gave me everything I wanted and left me wanting more, but I'm perfectly fine with what I watched. I had a great time. I laughed more than I thought I was going to, and it was just a really good time. So getting into the general plot of this, I thought that this was a very fun setup for these 4 episodes. Malcolm distancing himself from his family and just getting dragged back into the chaos because Hal and Lois are celebrating their 40th anniversary and they want him there. I thought that that was such a great setup for these episodes to happen because I feel like revivals kind of struggle with an in-universe justification, and I felt that this was a really strong hook that also felt really in character.
Because I realized the less contact I have with my family, the less I act like a sociopath.
Frankie Muniz absolutely crushes these 4 episodes. There's a moment in the 4th episode where he gets into a huge argument with Lois, and it leads to a very emotional moment between them, which is has a funny thing happening in the background that, you know, I won't spoil if you're listening to this spoiler review. Justin Berfield as Reese. I don't think he's acted much since Malcolm in the Middle, but he has not skipped a beat. He is back in that character. It was just awesome to see him be Reese again.
I think we all knew Malcolm would eventually betray us. That's what Harvard does to people. Or any college, really.
You could tell that like this meant something to everybody involved, to the returning cast, because like they really gave it their all. It didn't feel like they were going through the motions. It felt like they were fully in it, and it was great. And kind of going off of the returning cast, there are a lot of cameos and returns from previous characters, which as a fan of the show was great to see. I gasped at a lot of them, just seeing characters like Gretchen or Abe or Stevie or Craig or the KRELBOYNES. I just want to talk about the KRELBOYNES real quick. One of my biggest issues with the last half of Malcolm in the Middle, and it's honestly one of the show's biggest weaknesses in my opinion, is that in the last half, they for some reason phased out a lot of their side characters. So by the time you get to season 5, you don't have any more Dabney or Lloyd or Cynthia. You don't have any of these characters who were really funny and added something to the show, and they're just gone with no explanation, which is kind of a bummer to see, especially if you're binging it. But anyway, seeing the KRELBOYNES again, like that made my year. Dabney and Lloyd were some of my favorite side characters in the original show. Those kids, just as kids, they were such funny actors, and I just loved their characters so much because they were so ridiculous and over the top, but they played it so well.
They took my shirt! They took my shoes! My shoes!
So seeing them back and hinting at the fact that they grew a human from like in a lab or something was really funny, and I loved it. It was great.
The 3 of us have also created a child. Like with a surrogate? Sure.
We also get Eric and Finley and Drew. Like, I did not think that this many people would come back. And the funniest thing is, especially for characters like that or the KRELBOYNES, it doesn't make sense for them to be there. But I don't care. It's Malcolm in the Middle. It's not that serious. I don't know.
Right now, you want our bastard!
They even put Richie in here, which completely took me by surprise. So yeah, all the cameos were great. They worked for me. I had no notes. I loved it. But back to the plot. So over the course of these 4 episodes, you kind of have a lot of different things going on. You have Malcolm and his daughter and his girlfriend, who he has completely just kept in the dark from his family. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's a line in the first episode where Lois and Hal barge into Malcolm's house when Leah and Tristan are meeting for the first time. And Lois freaks out about him having a daughter, and then Leah says she's alive or something like that.
You have a daughter?
She's alive?
Which, by the way, seeing everybody just have a chance to freak out in this revival, it's music to my ears.
You made me do this!
But you have that with Malcolm having some issues with his girlfriend because she's upset that he lied to her about his family.
Idiot! Idiot! Tristan! I'm sorry!
You have Lois planning this whole anniversary. You have Hal, who wants to microdose but ends up going insane and having this whole self-discovery spirit journey. It's great, honestly. You have Reese beefing with Kelly, and you have Francis and Piama's pregnant. Just a whole lot going on here. But the thing that I really liked about this, and I was really kind of shocking, is the fact that it really recaptured the show's original tone in a way that I didn't think it was going to be able to. There were certain lines and exchanges in this that just felt ripped out of the original show, and I was surprised.
I have too many other priorities right now. You and the baby are number 8.
You have a list with numbers?
When she puts it that way, I really can't argue with her.
Are you kidding me? We're 1 slot above try oat milk.
So going into the new additions, we have Leah, Malcolm's daughter, who, as I was kind of predicting, talks to the camera like Malcolm, which kind of felt like they were testing the waters for a Leah show, you know? Like Leah talking to the camera and having her own drama at school and whatever. Just felt like they were trying to see if that worked. And I thought it was fine, but I guess one of my biggest issues with this revival is the fact that even though I thought that Leah worked fine in the show and the actress did a really good job and held her own in this show, show. You don't watch a show like this wanting to see the kids of the original cast. You want to see the original cast. And while we do get a good amount of the original cast, there is a good amount of time spent on Leah and her own troubles at school and whatever that did kind of take away from what I would have liked to have seen. For example, there is a lot of time spent on that as well as other things. Like, we do get a lot of time spent on Hal's self-discovery thing, which it was funny to me, but it kind of takes up a lot of the third episode in particular, which brings us to one of my bigger issues about this revival, is that there isn't a whole lot of interaction between the brothers, between Malcolm and Reese, or Reese and Francis. Like, there isn't a whole lot of that. There's a moment in the first episode where Malcolm's having flashbacks. He's talking about how his family makes him revert back to being crazy, and you get little flashbacks of him going crazy around his family. And there's a moment where he's keying a car because Reese is telling him that the car he has is him trying to show off to other people. And that alone had me smiling, and I was like, oh, that feels classic Malcolm in the Middle. But that's pretty much the only Malcolm and Reese interaction. I mean, there's one or two other moments that I could think of, but that's basically it.
Why don't you just admit you're stuck up and shoving your shiny new car in my face to make me feel bad?
Is this stuck up? Is this showing off?
And I would have liked to see more of that. Then there's the new character Kelly, who I thought was a fine addition, but I will say, especially after watching all 7 seasons pretty much right before this, I'm so used to this original cast of characters to the point where just having one extra person, even though in the series finale it's revealed that Lois is pregnant again, like this is that child, it just felt so weird to me. It was kind of jarring. It took me out a little bit. That being said, I thought that Kelly was a fine enough addition, and it was funny seeing them and Reese butt heads a little bit.
I don't have unreported income.
Then you'll be fine.
Now, obviously, there's an elephant in the room that I haven't talked about yet, and that is the recasting of Dewey. The way that they handled Dewey, I felt, was, given the fact that Eric Sullivan didn't want to come back and he hasn't acted in like 20 years, it kind of felt like what else could they do? But at the same time, with what they did with Dewey in this, I kind of feel like they would have been better off just being like, oh, Dewey is somewhere, I don't know, and just having him not be in it. The thing is, though, I feel like the actor is a decent enough match for Dewey to the point where I'm sure that there's people out there who haven't watched Malcolm in the Middle in 20 years, like since it went off the air, who are watching this, who aren't like me, who know Eric Sullivan by name, esteemed child actor, Malcolm in the Middle, Christmas with the Cranks fame, and probably won't even know that this is a recast. But there's a moment in the 4th episode at the anniversary party where there's an emotional tribute to Hal as a father, which I thought was a really nice touch to this revival, just giving it a little bit more emotion than the average Malcolm in the Middle episode. And it opens up with Dewey talking about Hal as a dad, and I had the thought of like, if this was really Eric Sullivan in this scene, I probably would have cried. But since it's a different actor, there's just this disconnect that I have. But it's just something that I had to accept and move on, and I did, and I had a good enough time. To kind of wrap things up, overall, I just felt that this was a really nice return to the show that was exactly what it needed to be. Regarding the split reactions, I feel like in the time that Malcolm in the Middle ended to right now, from 2006 to 2026, I feel like audiences have definitely changed in the way that they react to television and movies. There was more of just like an acceptance of things for what they were back in the day. Like Malcolm in the Middle went on for 7 seasons, and I feel like if this show was coming out for the first time now, season 5, end of season 5, Reese joins the army and all that storyline goes on, there would be 1,000 complaints about how, oh, they wasted that subplot, oh, this subplot was kind of haphazardly happened, things just happened in Malcolm in the Middle, and you just accepted it. It just went on. Next episode, all right, this crazy thing. Dewey literally got a tattoo that said Lois, I love my mom. What something? It was like Lois is my mother or something like that. Never mentioned again. And I feel like I loved seeing the characters again. I thought that everybody crushed it. You had some heartfelt moments in there. You had some really funny moments. You get the dysfunction and all. It left me wanting more, but happy with what we got. And overall, I think that this is just a really fun return to the show. I really enjoyed it. Had a great time. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about it.